Hey everybody. Good news is today's going to be short, sweet, to the point because we are about done with this lesson. When we finished, we were talking about rock and roll and how some people were really freaking out about it, and then some people were really embracing it. And the reason people were freaking out about it was because they believed that it made teenagers just go completely crazy and act inappropriate. Over here we got the great Jerry Lee Lewis who played the famous song Great Balls of Fire. You've probably seen it in Top Gun. We've got a guy who learned all of his moves from Forrest Gump, Elvis Presley, and a guy over here who looks like Harry Potter grown up, Buddy Holly. Now, a famous phrase came around known as juvenile delinquency, which really started around in 1951 with J.D. Sangler's A Catcher in the Rye. Few key icons of that movement were Marlon Brando and James Dean, and how they just completely defied the normal idea of the button-up shirt, the tie, you know, wearing your hair just the right way. You see James Dean right here. They want this hair not touching the ears, real short on the side, a little bit on top. And these guys really decided that they were going to become the icons of this, of going against the grain. And you can see with James Dean, he's doing this movie right here, A Rebel Without a Cause. One thing that Mr. Thompson is always known for saying is don't be a rebel without a cause. Because if you're going to rebel, you better have a good reason for doing so. And a lot of these guys really didn't have a good reason. Now, the Beat generation is going to be much like the 1920s generation of the Lost generation, in which they couldn't identify with what the previous generation had went through. These guys are growing up in a time where they have an abundance of wealth, doing quite well, and they look at their fathers as being kind of like being very disconnected. Their fathers are being very disconnected from them because of all the things they had seen during the Depression and as well World War II. And they can't really identify with their maternal parents at all. And so they kind of start to kind of break away from those social norms and they start to really become completely different. This guy over here represents your beatnik guy, whereas your clean teen, the guy who follows the rules, doing everything the right way, is over here. And so you have this divide in society amongst teenagers about which way you're going to go. A good movie to watch on that is Grease. I've never watched it because I just cannot stand musicals. Don't know if it's a good movie or a bad movie. Just not my cup of tea. Let's see here. We got our gender roles here. Gender roles were pretty much ludicrous back then. They would never work in today's society. They pretty much, you guys can go through the PowerPoint and pretty much see that the wife's guide to being a good wife is pretty much do everything for your husband and be, subservient. Make him happy. Do everything he asks. It's just unrealistic. You can't do this in today's society for one simple reason. In most households, both parents have to work today. It is impossible in most cases to have the father go to work, make all the money, and the wife stay at home, raise the kids, and do everything else. If you are lucky enough to grow up in a household like that, good for you. But we are in a time where a lot of times we only see one parent raising kids, and that's a hard thing. So this was not the ideal mindset that will work in our time, but it was what they expected back then, in which they basically said the modern woman was going to go ahead and provide for their family, cook, make sure the husband had a good meal when he got home. The kids were taken care of. She was in charge of their education. And the man at the time was going to go out there, provide for the house, protect the house, and do everything else. And they said basically the woman's place was at home, man's the breadwinner. But the thing they didn't really expect was that the women that had been working during World War II, a lot of them were unwilling to give up their jobs. They liked that independence. They liked getting outside the house. And in order to support this middle class lifestyle, women were going to have to enter the workforce, so it would not work. And then, as you can see, by 1960, 40% of women working either a full time or part time job. And so that is the rest of this section. There's no more. I will upload a test next week in which you will work through. It will be multiple choice, as always, from here going out. Continue to do the work online. Try not to get behind. And as always, I love you. I miss you. Stay home. Stay safe.